Hello and welcome. My name is Tom Lelyo. I'm your ultimate jet guide, and today I'm joined with Paula Williams of. Tell me, how do I pronounce your company's name? Because there's a lot of letters.
ABCI.
ABCI.
Alpha Bravo Charlie India.
Perfect.
Okay.
She is the marketing aviation guru, and we're having her join us today because we're going to be talking about marketing. Specifically, what does the marketing of a jet speak to a buyer? Okay, if I'm a buyer, I'm coming up to a jet online on Controller or wherever I'm finding this av buyer, wherever I'm finding it, what does the marketing tell me and what should I be looking out for? So thank you so much for being here, Paula.
Oh, you're very welcome. And actually, I think this is an amazing question because nobody thinks of it from this perspective. But if you're a jet buyer, it's similar to, I guess probably the thing that people are the most familiar with is if you're buying a car.
Yep, buying a car, buying a house, yep.
Do is look at the fit and finish, because that attention to detail is what tells you everything about how that car was built, how that car was especially if it's a used car, how that car has been taken care of. If you've got a clean, pristine, beautiful, fabulous inside of the trunk, then you're good because this car was owned by a responsible person. Mm-hmm. Same thing if you're looking at a jet and the emails are coming on time, you ask for something and you get it, it's a nice PDF, things are spelled correctly, it's you don't have any rough edges on the marketing.
Yep.
It tells you that this is a person that has an attention to detail. Mm-hmm. This is somebody who probably is working with a copywriter or working with other people,
yeah.
Has a good team, has a good process, is not too busy to be missing details. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the market for a jet, you want to be working with somebody who is comfortable with the process, mm-hmm. has a good team, mm-hmm. has a good process, and can, this is not their first rodeo, so they can navigate some of those weird things that happen in the process.
Well, I'm going to pull back the curtain for a second and tell you I've made all those mistakes.
Okay.
And I will tell you why I've made those mistakes so that the buyers can know maybe why it's happened. Yeah. And it's good. The reason I do that is because one of my core values is responsibility. Yeah. I will take responsibility for things. So if I made a mistake, hopefully I can explain it and then learn from it myself, but also help somebody along the way. Mm-hmm. So for example, I will have someone that we want to get it to market. So I'll use an owner's photos.
Oh, yeah.
Now all of a sudden, they're vertical,
dark.
They're dark. Yeah. They, they're all over the place. And so maybe if you see that, yes, if it's like that for 6 months or however long I'm listed, then that's a problem. But at the same time, sometimes we're just trying to get it to market.
Yes.
I've also definitely made spelling errors in my spec sheet, and I've even made the mistake. I know, right? I've even made the mistake of numerical errors. Ooh. And I remember a time where instead of saying 3,300 hours remaining. Mm-hmm. It was 3,300 hours since overhaul. Ooh. Completely different story. Yeah. Completely different story. So I've learned, double check the spec sheets, mm-hmm. Against the maintenance reports and understand what you're getting. The brokers aren't perfect.
No.
But they should be held to a high standard, to your point. Mm-hmm. And so, I've made a lot of those different kinds of mistakes. The other mistakes I've seen is we had someone go to a pre-buy. The pictures and everything were flawless. It was beautiful, perfectly marketed. Yeah. And we've all had the time where you go and it's completely not what you expected. Yeah. In this case, it was. Mm-hmm. However, when they stepped inside the cabin, when they looked down at the floor, they noticed crayon, markers, candy. Clearly, this person had kids. And we're like, how did we miss this? We noticed that the photos never showed the floor.
Oh, wow.
So when we got there.
They've been there the whole time.
Yep. So even if you got the perfect photos, do they show everything? Yeah. And I've even had buyers tell me send me stuff from the owner or send me a video. And so whenever I go out or I have a photographer go out, I say, go through with your phone, shoot me a video, just down and dirty, just so I can send that, because people understand, marketing is marketing. But you're absolutely right. And I love the point that you bring up that it's not just about the ad itself, but you said attention to detail, and you said, do they respond to you? Yeah. What is their process of responding? Yeah. When you actually get on the phone, do they ask you about what are you looking for? Why now? Why this plane? Have you considered something newer, something older? Like, what's your price point? Like, are they having a conversation with you, or are they just order takers? Yeah, the ask price is this, the engines are that, the avionics is this. Have a good day. Call me if you like it.
They're a consultant, not an order.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah. Let me go back to one thing that you said, and that is, I love the fact that you are transparent when you make an error, because it's gonna happen, and so are we. And I think being transparent is 1,000 times better than being perfect.
Ooh.
We all shoot for that polish, but we don't always hit it. So sometimes the circumstances dictate we're going to do an owner video, or we're going to send you an unfinished document, or we're going to send you something.
Yeah, we've done that. Yep.
And if you can prepare people for that and say, hey, I'm not where I want to be in this process because we're in a hurry. Let me...
we're in the fourth quarter now. I mean, how much of a hurry do we have to be in? Yeah.
Exactly. Let me preface this with, here's what we got to work with right now. This is not our usual process, but we're hurrying because we want to meet your needs, and that's more important than being all perfect.
So you mentioned, for owner or for buyers looking into it, kind of, what are some of the things that, in your opinion, set a broker or set a potential deal apart from the marketing perspective? You mentioned maybe photos a little bit, maybe something you've seen people do after, like the emails, drip campaigns, or like, what are some of the things that you've seen that kind of set someone apart?
Okay. I think people who are thought leaders in their specialty. So, if you are a broker that specializes in the Honda Jet, as an example, and you're writing articles about the Honda Jet, these are the attributes of it. This is the perfect mission profile. Here's somebody that bought a Honda Jet that maybe shouldn't have. If you're writing articles about that sort of thing, or shooting videos about that sort of thing, if you're producing content about your topic, then you're the guy that they want to talk to, right? They want to talk to the Honda Jet guy.
Yeah, so buyers should be looking like, who is this broker? Yeah. Don't just look at the airplane.
Right.
Look at who's the guy representing it. Is this the guy? It's a great point.
You may decide, hey, I want to buy a Honda Jet, but I want to buy it from somebody that knows these things and can find me a good pilot and a good crew and has a good, rapport with the manufacturer and knows, what's coming next. Or what happened before.
Yep, I've had that. People have called me on a listing. I've, sent them the drip campaign, sent them the ultimate jet guide and everything like that.
Which
and
is
then
great,
thank you very much. And they'll call me later and they'll say, hey, I'm looking to buy this citation. It's a listing, it's not yours, but will you help me with the process? Because they want that guide.
Yeah. And they want that thought leader,
Yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah, so I would say, even if you don't have a jet to sell yet in your target market, start producing the content. Here's the difference between this year and next year's model. Here's why you would want this rather than that. Here are some of the options you might want to consider with this jet family. Then you establish your thought leadership before you have a listing.
Yep.
You're all set.
Yeah.
You've already got a reputation.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. Let's switch gears and talk about how we can help brokers.
Okay.
Or just aviation professionals that want to help with their marketing. So we've got my buddy Alex here, and he's getting started in aviation. What are some of the quick tips for you, for someone getting started? Why am I going to worry about marketing? I got to worry about sales. Why am I going to worry about marketing? It's such a long road. I'm not going to do TikTok dances. What does that have to do? Like, do I need to go viral? There's just so many things that kind of come to mind when marketing. It can almost be paralyzing.
Yeah. Well, most of us, when we learn about marketing in school, they're talking Coca-Cola and McDonald's and things like that. That's not us. We're not for everybody. And we know that. So we're trying to get the right network of maybe 100 people, that know, like, and trust you. You're not going for thousands or hundreds of thousands. So if you're producing dancing TikTok videos that are getting hundreds of thousands of views, you're in the wrong profession, right? You want to be very, 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 very famous with 100 people. Okay, so pick your 100 people. What are they like? Where do they live? What kind of cars do they drive? What do they do on weekends? What magazines do they read? All of that. Know those 100 people as well as you possibly can. A lot of people do the buyer's persona, and it's like one person.
Yep.
I like to look at 10 or 20 or 100. You've got a nice demographic group that you can find out a lot about. and it's not as idiosyncratic as one guy, who could be an outlier in some way. But if you shoot for that group of 10, maybe first, that's a good number, it's a manageable number. So you got 10 individuals, what do they have in common?
That makes sense. No, I like that. That makes a lot of sense.
How much education do they have?
Yeah.
What's their demographics?
So I'm actually going to have Alex ask you a couple questions because I know that he's starting to get ready to start his Instagram and start, and so he's got a couple questions like, do I do my brand or do I do myself? Do I combine the two? Do I get a logo? He's got a couple of those questions, so I'm going to ask him. But before I have him ask him that and give him time to think of questions.
Did you know that?
Yeah, he does. But I want to ask you, with personas.
Okay.
If I'm just coming out of college, which some of our brokers are,
Yeah.
and maybe I didn't grow up riding around in a private jet,
Yeah.
how do I even start finding personas of people that I don't have my own personal insight into?
Yeah, and you don't have a lot of personal relationships from the country club.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. A lot of the people that we work with are coming from a similar background. They've never been really comfortable in this world because they come from maybe a family where they're in a different socioeconomic level or whatever, and so they feel really nervous. The main thing is we're all people.
Right? Exactly.
And people are looking for expertise and they're looking for confidence. And the only way to get confident really is to get to know some folks. So hang out where they hang out. If you can get invited as a guest to some different events and things without having to pay a ton of money. I don't mean to max out your credit cards and
get in the room, right?
Yeah, fly to Ibs,
go to Dubai and just hang out with everyone. Yeah.
I just mean, when you have the opportunity, don't shy away from hanging out with people who are wealthier than yourself.
Yep.
And you'll get to know that they are just people the same as anybody else. They've got the same problems, maybe a variation of a different problem, whatever. But you want to, they're all they don't want to get ripped off. They want to work with people they know, like, and trust. They want to work with people that know their topic. Yep. So expertise trumps money.
Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%, and that's how they got successful too. That's the way I think about it. Is they're very specialized in their industry, which allowed them to serve a lot of people and be in this position to own a private jet, and they're looking for something similar. And the other thing I would say too is when you look at it from like a perspective of like groups and rings, there's people of the outskirts of those rings that they'll take a chance on somebody they don't know. Hey, come on, and maybe that's not like the big fish that you want to talk to initially, but you can kind of get in the room through somebody else that'll take a chance, and then hopefully you pay that forward down the line as well. So just because you can't get in touch with the CEO, maybe you can get in touch with somebody in the surrounding circles and get in the room.
Right. And there's a whole strategy for kind of infiltrating a family trust or infiltrating a large organization or something like that from the outside ring, which is exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So you start with the outside ring and you work your way in.
That's cool.
Using LinkedIn, using personal connections, using events like this one, using other things like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I love it.
Great.
What do you think, man? We've got some questions.
Well, first, I think this has been really informative for me. So I'm 24 years old. I just became a jet broker in June.
Congratulations.
I started working with Tom.
Yeah.
Originally, I was in finance, and I've always been passionate about aviation, and I wanted to combine both aviation and finance. So I didn't know quite what it was, but I stumbled upon, aircraft acquisitions and sales, and I found Tom online. So I'm very happy with where I'm at right now. And I actually just got my first listing several weeks ago, straight CJ. So listening to some of your ideas on the kayaking market, such as making articles and just writing about it, and just making content specifically on straight CJs.
Yeah.
It's good because one, what I want is when someone thinks of a straight CJ, they think of my name.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
But my question for you is, I think you kind of touched on it, but what are ways that I can expand my network?
Okay.
I've heard, volunteering for like some committees is really important, although I don't know which committees to look into yet. So I guess what is your, how can I expand my network? Because that's really important.
Right. I haven't really looked into straight CJs and their demographics and who buys them and those kinds of things, but often there is a industry, maybe oil and gas or whatever, that is particular to this particular aircraft type. So if you can learn something about, take 100 people that own CJs What do they have in common? Do they work in oil and gas? Do they work in the movie industry? Do they work with celebrities, or do they work in some other field? And then learn as much as you can about those common fields. So, if 60 out of 100 are in this industry, learn as much as you can about that industry so you can talk to them about, I know you need to go here, here, and here. These are the locations you're probably interested in. I know a little bit about those airports. The more background you have on their industry and their needs, the more they're going to feel like, oh, this guy gets me, and I feel him understanding and following, as opposed to somebody who's just interested in the airplanes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always an industry background.
Right.
Because their money came from somewhere. Right.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And also outside of networking, as a young, professional, what is the best way I can, what can I do to make what should I ask this? I guess what can I do to put myself in the best position to succeed, other than I didn't touch on networking?
Yeah.
What are other things I can do? Such as in marketing, I'm kind of like, I'm conflicted on whether I should build my own personal brand with my name, or kind of like build just a brand that's just about aviation. I don't know. I guess I'm conflicted whether it should be my name or other thing.
Like a company name that you create.
Name.
Well, there are advantages to both. I'm going to go at the beginning of the story. I wish I had done more personal branding before I jumped into company branding. And there are two reasons for that. One, nobody can take it away from you. And number two, you can turn it in a different direction if you decide, CJs are not my thing, I want to go into something else. A company is kind of tied to that subject matter more than you are personally, because you can evolve as a person into maybe a different aircraft maker model or a different specialty. Say, hey, I started there, but I went this direction for this reason. You can do that more easily. You're more versatile as a human being. And secondly, nobody can copy Tom's face on all of his podcasts and things like that.
It's true.
I guess AI can, but it takes a whole lot more to copy somebody's personal brand than to copy a company brand.
Right.
It's a lot easier to copy a company brand than a personal brand. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. Anything else that you?
Well, my question for him is how does he get started? Like, should he just pick a platform and start posting, or should he wait till he has 20 posts ready to go and then start, or how?
Clean up my Instagram and reuse just delete all the college photos. Delete all the college photos.
Right. It is a good idea to do a little bit of a checklist. We have a personal branding checklist.
That's right. We'll give you a checklist. Okay.
Yeah, that we use for that, and just say, here are some things that you might want to consider before you go big, because it is hard to undo a first impression. On the other hand, don't be paralyzed. It doesn't have to be perfect. Like we said, transparency is a good thing. And if you're a snowboarder or whatever, there's nothing wrong with showing that side of your personality. Even if it doesn't really match with the demographics you're going after, that might be something they think is cool about you if you're kind of yourself. So, I would kind of make sure that it's not something that they would question your judgment or anything like that. So maybe go back a few years and make sure there's nothing that's anybody would be in your target demographic would be offended by or anything like that. So, otherwise, let it rip.
Yeah. I'll also say too, most of the time, people when you're posting, people overestimate how much reach they're going to have when they first start.
Yeah. That's
true. Unless you send people to your page, which is pretty much what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're sending people to that page, and you're only going to send a couple people a page a day maybe. So when you're starting out, just get that content out there, build that muscle, that content muscle, so that a year later, when you're sending a bunch of people there, they're just oh man, this guy's been doing it for a year.
And every day I'm arm wrestling with people, the same as Gary Vaynerchuk told you. You have to get out there. The first post is going to be the hardest. The second post will be a little bit easier. You're going to make mistakes. Don't worry too much about it. Just keep moving forward.
Just be better the next day. Yeah.
Oh yeah, be better the next day.
Yeah, just learn for sure. Any other questions?
No, I guess I mean, I kind of already know the answer, but like we were talking about articles earlier.
Yeah.
Where do you suggest posting articles? Do you suggest making your own website and kind of like a blog with those articles, and then
Great question.
repost that on like LinkedIn or something? Or,
Yeah.
I guess that's.
So you don't want anybody copying your intellectual property. So what I would suggest that you do for two reasons. One is intellectual property, and the other is because it gets you the maximum value for the work you put into those articles. Publish them on your own site first, and then repost on whatever media you're using. So LinkedIn, Instagram, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can take derivatives of that article, long article that you wrote. You can maybe do information snacks of that and post them on Instagram, or you can do longer pieces and post them on LinkedIn, whatever your drug of choice is. You want to make sure that you own that content and you have published it first and you have a date stamped publication date and everything else. So not that you'd ever pursue it, but people are less likely to copy it if they know that you're following that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you have someone who's just starting out post YouTube, X, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and just it all goes up all over the place? Or would you have them focus on one, build that muscle for a couple weeks, couple months, and then start to spread out?
Right.
What would you recommend?
All of our clients have one or two channels of choice.
Channels of choice. I like that.
And we develop their content for those channels, optimized for those channels. And then you spread out from that.
Okay.
So you can always take derivatives and put them other places with very little extra effort. So if LinkedIn is your thing, you're going to be writing longer pieces and you're going to be doing, longer form videos and no TikTok dancing or,
Now, here's a question. Would you write the blog post and then would you just copy and paste it into LinkedIn as a native LinkedIn piece of content with maybe a link at the end to the original post? Or would you just copy and paste the URL so that it shows up? Because I would imagine LinkedIn would probably prefer a native piece of content over a share.
Right.
Now we're getting really into the weeds.
Exactly. There's a lot of ways to do this, and the algorithms change all the time. So that being said, currently, we like to take 2 or 3 paragraphs from an article that you've already written, and then post it, as a teaser to get them to your website. That increases the traffic to your website. You own the intellectual property, and you're driving traffic away from LinkedIn, which you don't own. So
Yeah.
LinkedIn goes away tomorrow. You still got the content.
Yeah, makes sense. That's great. If people want to find out more information about what you do, where can they find you, Paula?
aviationbusinessconsultants.com. We help aviation companies sell more of their products and services.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah.